Outlaws here. Got my buddy Andrew again.
Yes, sir.
We got the 54 back in the shop. Today, we're going to do away with all that old technology front end and put a Speedway Mustang 2 kit. And we drug out part of it here. I'll show you. So here's just a few of the pieces. Like I said, this is a Mustang 2 style kit from Speedway Motors. It's pretty much all universal parts except for this crossmember here and the upper spring perches are for application. But it comes disc brakes, coil springs, all new upper control arms, serviceable bushings, or excuse me, serviceable ball joint, polyurethane bushing. Comes with some instructions that are rather funny. Has parts in there that talks about using the 2x4s for mock-up. But so yeah, we're going to try to get all this stuff in. Get in this thing. It started. This is going to be a budget build, but you know, safety's the #1 priority, and this thing has drum brakes that is, you know, they're outdated, and we want to get better steering. So a rack and pinion, obviously, disc brakes, obviously, and by the time you start sourcing a bunch of junkyard parts, you know, a Camaro clip or something goofy like that, you can just buy this kit from Speedway. It's engineered to work together. It's proven. They've sold 1 million of them, and it's going to work. So that's going to be the plan. First things first, we're going to tear it apart. Got a little late start today. Somebody had to sleep in.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And but we're going to at least try to get everything blown apart. This car still has the motor and trans in it. Going to get the motor and trans out. Going to get all the rails stripped down. It'll open eventually. We'll work on that. Yeah, get everything stripped down. I'd like to get the crossmember welded in and maybe start throwing some pieces back on it. We'll see. What do you think?
I think you're selling us short. I think we're gonna have it at least a roller today, and I gotta have it a roller so I can see it on the ground. That'll inspire you to do the rest of the work. So
I mean,
that's the goal. That's my personal goal for today.
Well, I mean, I'll go right along with that because this thing as a roller would be awesome. So now we have an Andrew powered 54.
Much faster than before.
Probably so. So yeah, here we go. Got the front clip off. First big hurdle. Wasn't too bad. A little wiring stuff we had to figure out. A couple rusty bolts. Only one broke off, surprisingly. Wasn't too bad. So here you can see the original engine. Honestly, haven't even tried to turn it over. Don't care to.
Runs good though. Runs good.
Oh yeah.
Wants to buy it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Runs great.
Runs great.
But yeah, so I didn't even give this thing a try. I found the new motor at such a good deal. I couldn't even begin to work on this one and make it nearly as cool for the same money. So this one's just going to go after we get all this leaf mess, and you can see the suspension. I mean, you can see how primitive and old school this is, and it would make it so hard to lower it, at least to the point that we want to. Same thing, old school steering box, manual steering, that's going to go away. Yeah, so next big step is we're going to get the motor out, which should be, in theory, cut the exhaust, motor mounts, trans mount. We've already done the shift linkage, we've already done the drive shaft. So get that out of the way, then hack out this front suspension and keep on keeping on.
Yes, sir.
All right, back to work. So there it is.
Yes, sir.
Got the old unit out. Made space.
All this room for activities here.
All this room, you know, for the LSA 6.2 we're going to do in there.
Yeah, you know, budget.
Budget. So yeah, motor's out, obviously. Time to come in here. Unbolt the crossmember there. Supposedly there's 4 bolts. We'll see. Do some modifications to the steering box that was recommended by the Walton Fabrication guys. Yeah, so next thing is drop the subframe out, and yeah, I guess we can start measuring and put the new crossmember in. So, good progress. What time we got?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Got it blown apart pretty well, so back to work.
There
Nice
it goes.
Ta-da.
Ta-da! Pretty easy measuring. You're just going to go 16 inches back from this. That's going to create your center line for your spindle. That was hot. I did just touch it. And that'll create your center line for your spindle. It's where you're going to measure your spring perches off of. Everything's going to be centered off of that first measurement. So don't mess it up.
And there's a bunch of different ways to do it. Just the way I do it. Big aluminum framing square. You come off, you got a nice flat edge on top of this rail. Get right there. You know, eyeball the center line here.
Whole lot of eyeballing going on.
A lot of eyeballing. A lot of eyeballing going on. Just come right here to 16. I made a mark. Probably can't see it on camera, but 16. Just gonna get the center line of that. And they say to set the frame level, to set the angle of it, which we will do. But we just wanted to get it up in there and make sure it was correct toward the rear, and then we'll level it out. Yeah, we went from there. Probably tack it in place, and then start hanging some parts on it.
Yes, sir.
This thing running and driving by tonight. All right, so rails have been completely stripped. All brackets that we didn't need, everything off. We marked 16 inches back. Andrew told you about that, and now we have the crossmember tacked. Just tacked in, located, and now Andrew's going to show us how the uppers go on.
You're just going to take your center line of this upper spring perch, and that's going to be your reference point. You're going to center that against your crossmember center line. So obviously, I'm not measuring right now, but it's going to look something like that. These do add caster into the system, so you want to make sure that the high side is on the front side of the car. So this is going to be our passenger side.
Caster and anti-dive, because that's what Speedway calls it.
Anti-dive.
Anti-dive. So, yeah, we'll mark that up. Center with that. Obviously needs to go back a touch, but you know, we can't mark, talk, video, and enjoy adult beverages at the same time. So we got to pick two, and we're gonna get back to the adult beverages. So here we are, the end of day one. Didn't get quite as much done as we had hoped to. Well, we got as much done as I hoped to get done.
I'm disappointed.
But someone had super high hopes.
I'm disappointed.
So I think we got a lot done. So this is what we did. Here's where we're at. Okay, now you've seen where that archaic suspension that was on here. Now we have Speedway Mustang 2. Got the crossmember in there tacked. Got the upper shock hats tacked on. Control arms in there, just kind of snugged up, you know. So we just wanted to make sure that our forward and rear position of the wheels were correct, and it looks great. We're nice and square. We've got these little strut rods to do next. I went ahead and bent them. The instructions say to cut them and plate them, and it's all a bunch of BS and way too much work. So decided to do it my own way. So we bent those. Going to bend the strut rods back, weld those up. Those are going to be great to go.
Still talk about the problems we had.
Yeah, Ellis does not approve of all the problems we had from this Speedway kit. Now, I'm not saying it's junk by any means. It is substantially cheaper than the other kits, and now I see why. Problem number one is we had, I don't know, probably not enough lighting to see down here. Andrew's gonna bring us a light in. So we had a problem with the rotor hitting the lower control arm. We spent probably an hour and a half scratching our heads, swapping sides, trying to figure it out. It's just not right. It just doesn't have enough clearance right there. We came in there with a grinder, smoothed it down, had plenty of clearance now, but wasn't real happy with that. On the passenger side, on the driver's side, inner bearing went on no problem. Outer bearing was a little tricky, but it went on. On the passenger side, the inner bearing, I tried for 30 minutes to get it on. I emery clothed it, repacked it, re-greased it, checked, looked, blah, blah, blah. Of course, Andrew walks over and slides it right on, but there was just a little tolerance issue, and it feels like it wasn't quite machined properly. Feels like they didn't make the final pass on the spindle, but it's on, it's tight, it's snug, everything's fine now. Wasn't real happy with that. Some of the grinding wasn't real happy with on the cross member, but I mean, all in all, it's not bad. Like I said, it's a lot cheaper than the other kits. By over $1,000 compared to some of them, and I'll do some grinding and I'll do some emery cloth work for $1,000 because at the end of the day, this is a budget build.
I wish it was lower, but that's okay.
Well,
if you can't tell right here, I mean that's maybe 3 inches to the ground, 2.5 inches to the ground from that cross member.
Yeah.
I really didn't think that was going to be that low just looking at it.
Yeah, let's give them a reference. Put your phone down there or something.
iPhone 8,
iPhone 8, right?
So,
I mean, that's pretty low. And you also got to think we're going to have a rack hanging off the front of that. And you hit any big speed bumps, and you got 6 or 8 girls in the passenger seat. 8 girls in the passenger seat. That's pretty low. There's a couple companies that make some Super Slam cross members that just wasn't in the budget. This is totally fine. We're not going for that look. It's not getting air. It's going to be static. It's going to be nice. It's going to be fun. We'll do a quick cut and we'll show you roughly what it's going to look like with the front end on. So here's a little sneak peek. This is about how it's going to sit. Now the front end's on there roughly at best. Still got a lot of trimming to do on the inner fenders. I'll show you in a second, but I mean that's a pretty cool fitment. It's going to have a good look at a good height. It's going to be functional. It's going to be able to go over speed bumps. You hit a dip in the interstate at 80, it shouldn't have any issues. Miles of clearance on the inner fenders. So it's going to be a good height. And once you get a bumper on it, it's going to hunker down. It's going to be a good stance. But speaking of clearance issues, as you can see, the inner fender is sitting on the control arm. Lots of cutting will have to be done here. That's why I'm showing you the driver's side, not the passenger, because it needs so much cutting. And it's late. We're not gonna mess with that tonight. And you can see better on this side, like it's going to have to be notched out, trimmed up. We're gonna see if we can even still run the fresh air vents. We'll see. But gives you an idea. Gives you a nice idea of the look.
yes, sir. It's always fun.
Always fun. Yeah, and that's what it's about. We may run into issues. We may have problems. But it's about the camaraderie, the fun. This was a good Saturday. It was an entire Saturday. It was a hot Saturday.
It was all of those things.
It was. I walked into the shop next door that has a thermometer on the wall. It was reading 98. With that particular shop had the door closed, but we had the door open, fan on. But that shop was 98 degrees. It was ridiculous. But I mean, it was still fun. This was a lot of good times. So now we just got to do it again and again and again.
A couple more, maybe 10, 13 more
maybe,
Saturdays.
Yeah, maybe. Over that. So here's episode 1 of the front stuff.
Of the front stuff, yes.
So we'll be back. See you next time.